Okay, today's lesson is about American federalism. We're going to start with the definition. What does federalism mean? When we're talking about it in the context of American government, we're talking about the constitutional division of power between the national government and state governments. And the key thing there is that constitutional separation of power. The Constitution is the source of power for the states and for the national government. One is not dependent on the other for power. So that's a key component of this definition. Let's talk about why it works in America. First off, it's better than a confederation. We saw under the Articles of Confederation that a confederacy was not plausible in America. Some other things. It allows for unity. We have a united country, we have similar things, but we don't have uniformity. We have differences among the states. There's a much different culture in places like California or Alabama, and the constitutional establishment of federalism allows that to foster and prosper. It's also more suitable for a large geographical nation, a nation that is spread out and so diverse as this country. Federalism works very well. It's also for a good grouping of people like America, where we are very heterogeneous, where there is a lot of differences among the people. It also checks tyranny. Founders were big on keeping tyranny in check, and federalism allows that. It's the part of that pluralist society where you have multiple access points to the government. It frees the national government to focus on things that are of truly national matters, foreign affairs, defense, the global economy. It also encourages experimentation. It allows different states to try things out. You know, a state like Nevada has built a reputation as the gambling capital of the country, and gambling works for that state. Gambling provides jobs, it provides taxes, it provides a lot of resources, and it works in Nevada. It might not necessarily work in other states, and they're not forced to do that. Each state gets to experiment. The other thing is it keeps government close to the people. By having that federalist system where you have the states and local government responsive to the people, you get people connected to their government. Now, when it comes to power in federalism, there are several different categories of power. We'll look at the national level first, and we'll start with the expressed powers here. When we're talking about expressed, we are talking about those things specifically stated in the Constitution, predominantly in Article 1, Section 8, everything listed there. So these are the delegated powers to the national government. These are the expressed powers. Along those same lines, still staying with the national government, are what are called implied powers. This is what comes from Article 1, Section 8, the last part there. It says that Congress shall have all powers necessary and proper to carrying out the above listed powers. The necessary and proper clause is also referred to as the elastic clause because it stretches the boundaries of the Constitution and the powers vested in Congress. The implied powers, they're not stated explicitly, but they are suggested, and we, through court interpretations, have found them to be powers granted to the national government. You also have inherent powers. They're not necessarily specifically stated, but because it's the national government, they are inherent in their duties. Things like recognizing other nations or carrying out diplomatic endeavors, acquiring new territory. That naturally falls to the national government, even if it's not specifically stated somewhere. Where the states come into play is with the reserved powers. That's what Amendment 10 is all about. It's powers that are not granted to the national government but are reserved to the states. Establishing voting requirements, running elections, licensing professionals like teachers and lawyers, protecting community health, doing a vehicle code, and education are powers reserved to the state governments. And then the last thing I want to talk about is concurrent powers. These are granted to Congress, but they're also not denied to the states. So both get to exercise them. Taxing. You get taxed by both the national and the state government. That is a concurrent power. The court system, we have a dual court system. There are national courts and there are state courts. And there are law enforcement agencies at the national and state level and local level. So these are concurrent. They share the power. They can exercise the power together. Now, this last topic here of historical eras. There's 3 different historical eras: dual federalism, cooperative federalism, and new federalism. Tomorrow in class, we're going to cover those by looking at different types of cake. So come in with your appetite, ready to learn.